Welcome back to Ronnie's Reckless Reviews.
Hey, Ronnie. Ronnie?
Good reviews?
Fabulous reviews.
This is Ronnie. Make it good.
Suppose Ronnie could have been a
Reviewer.
It's Ronnie, all right.
Ronnie?
Reviews.
Fabulous reviews.
And this is the best review we got!
Today I got some horror movies on the docket. First up, a movie I've been meaning to see, Smile 2. I was gonna review this movie a couple months ago, but I couldn't. I had the movie tickets ready to go, but once we got to the booth, they asked for our IDs because apparently, Smile 2 is 18A. I've seen several horror movies in theaters, and apparently Smile 2 is the limit, the scariest horror movie of all time. Anyway, we scrambled and ended up buying tickets for Heretic, which was playing on the same time slot. And it was quite good. It really shows off Hugh Grant's acting in a major way after his disappointing performance in Wonka. The story was very engaging and the technical aspects were all top-notch. I'd give Heretic an 8 out of 10. But anyways, the movie I actually wanted to watch at the theaters, I finally managed to watch at home just recently. The first Smile was very, very bad, and I was expecting the same thing from this movie. There was a bit of a fan base for the first movie because from what I remember the subtext and themes weren't handled too poorly, but I just could not take it seriously at all because the horror aspects were very laughable and terribly cliche. A 3 out of 10 movie.
You're going to die! You're going to die! You're going to die! You're going to die! You're going to die!
I'm pleased to say that somehow they got it right for the sequel. It was a vast improvement on the first movie, aside from a few scenes. The movie was genuinely, viscerally disturbing at times, so I can't complain too much that the Canadian rating system was trying to protect me. I could actually take the subtext and theme seriously when everything was presented so much more competently. There was a key scene where the main character sees several smiling people, the gimmick of the series, crawling towards her like a horde of bugs, and it was insanely well choreographed and put together, and demonstrated perfectly the themes of the paranoia that comes with having a drug addiction while being a pop star, and feeling like everyone is invading your privacy at all times. One of the best horror sequences of the year. I thought the main actor, Naomi Scott, was incredible, the cinematography was very impressive, the entire cold open is shot as if it's a one-take scene, and it's one of the best cold opens of the year. The music was incredible. Other movies like Sorry to Bother You and They Clone Tyrone have done similar stylistically wonky scores in recent years, but this one was just as effective as those two for me. Almost all the effects and ideas for the horror set pieces were very well done. Later in the movie, there were scenes like a flashback scene that takes place in a car that reminded me of an arcade dinosaur 3D game that kind of took me out of it. I was a bit disappointed that the polish faltered in some of the later scenes, but it was only a few select cases. There was also some jump scares later on where the characters' voices were supposed to be all demonic, and I felt like the horror was reverting back to the level of the first one.
No one cares about you.
But it never fully pulled me out of the movie. Overall, this was one of the biggest horror franchise blow-ups that I've seen ever, from the first movie to the second, and I would give Smile 2 an 8 out of 10.
Smile 2, rated R.
Speaking of smiles, here's a movie that I wasn't smiling through. Trap, another movie featuring a prominent pop star character, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. This is better than his previous work Knock at the Cabin, but not by much. I will say just as Dave Bautista is amazing in Knock at the Cabin, Josh Hartnett really pulled through and saved this movie from not being fun at all. His performance was incredibly enthralling and enjoyable. He was very convincingly goofy yet slightly creepy, and he was easily the best part of the movie. The other two main characters are Josh Hartnett's character's daughter and Lady Raven, a Taylor Swift-esque pop star played by M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, and she is not a good actor at all.
Rachel, listen to me! Your husband is the butcher! Cooper is the butcher!
It's always tough navigating calling a child actor's performance bad, but it's almost always indicative of a bad director and not really on the child. It's especially obvious when the other child in the movie, Ariel Donahue, is actually really good at acting, because she was hired off of talent instead of nepotism as a scheme to promote his daughter's music career. And nothing against Salika Shyamalan, but her acting is just very bad. Thankfully, Josh Hartnett gets most of the screen time, and he's great. The story, however, was not very good. The plot revolves around Josh Hartnett as a serial killer called the Butcher, who is taking his daughter to a concert of Lady Raven, and while there he finds out that the concert is a trap to find him. Hijinks ensues before the Butcher finds a way to get Lady Raven to pick his daughter to be the dream girl of the show, where Lady Raven picks her to come up on stage so that backstage he can convince her into coming to his house by threatening to remotely kill a prisoner he has locked up if she doesn't let herself go to his house, so he can slip through customs and police surrounding the concert. And I feel like a lot of this would be better for a video game. Like just walking around as a big burly Josh Hartnett looking for clues and ways to escape before switching POV to Lady Raven. Maybe then the bad acting, bad writing, and distracting plot points wouldn't be so annoying. Like there's a scene where Lady Raven is in the bathroom calling for help at the Butcher's house for like 10 minutes as Josh Hartnett bangs on the door, doing nothing to really stop her at all, just screaming on the other end. And all I could think of was, this is such a scene that would be in a video game and maybe make more sense as like a time mission in a video game, instead of a scene in a movie that we're supposed to be engaged with on a genuine level.
Give me my phone. Hello? Who are you talking to?
And maybe all the sections where the Butcher receives convenient information from sources he finds just out of random luck wouldn't feel so idiotic if the clues were found through interacting with NPCs in a video game. Very dull story, and some of the character choices and plot points, especially as the movie goes on, are just so stupid and contrived. Still, aside from the many Shyamalan annoyances, a good chunk of this movie is watching Josh Hartnett weaseling around and just acting his ass off, so it's still pretty entertaining. But I would give Trap a 5 out of 10.
Trap. Only in theaters August 2nd.
Speaking of great lead actors, the final movie I'm bringing up is Maxine, starring Mia Goth, the third in the X trilogy, and this one is the worst, but it's still quite good. Each movie in the series is a period piece horror movie homage to past eras of horror, while still being its own unique concept. The first one taking place in the 70s, the second in the late 1910s, and this one in the 80s. Each one is directed by Ty West and stars Mia Goth. X is a very classic raunchy 70s slasher where the killer is an old couple, the main focus being on the old wife, who is also played by Mia Goth in very heavy makeup. The entire trilogy is about Mia Goth's character's dreams of stardom, and the first one is about Maxine starring in an adult movie being confronted with this creepy old lady Pearl who is resentful of Maxine and jealous of her youth. And the second movie, Pearl, is the origin story of the disturbed Pearl as a young girl who also dreams of being a movie star. Pearl is more of a slow psychological movie, and it really shows off how insanely good of an actress Mia Goth is. I would give X an 8 out of 10 and Pearl a 9. Pearl was in my top 10 of 2022. Finally, we arrive at Maxine, with Mia reprising her character from X, moving on from adult content and looking to become the next big movie star. And I did quite enjoy it. Of course, Mia Goth was great. The gore and horror shenanigans were great. I love all the practical effects and death sequences. There's a scene early on showing Maxine to be a badass final girl, involving her stepping on somebody else's lower body part, and it was really brutal and visceral. There's a scene where Maxine is being covered by a clay mold to create a fake head for her, for a movie she's in, and it's very skin-crawling and well-edited, the scene. There's a scene where Maxine's gay best friend is being slashed, intercut with Maxine highlighting text to memorize for a role she booked, and it's a very cool sequence. And the final death scene where she shoots the main villain with a shotgun was simple but very effective. The practical gore was just top-notch all around. I also like the music for the most part. The wailing brass and soaring electronic guitars were very ear-catching. I didn't really like some of the percussion. I think some of the scenes could have gone with just the eerie brass. The bongos felt weirdly derivative of Doom for a movie trying to evoke 80s music. The technical aspects were consistently great, however the characters and writing weren't amazing. I can't put my finger on it, but the other two in the series do a really seamless job at riding the line between a really good modern horror and a cheesy homage to past eras, and this one just isn't great at it. The cheesy, goofy characters are amazing and entertaining. Bobby Cannavale has a smaller role as a theatrical, gruff police officer, and he's very good. Kevin Bacon was very, very fun to watch with his cartoony southern drawl and outfit, and Simon Prast played the main slasher, being Maxine's priest dad, and he was probably the best part of the whole movie, even if he didn't have that much screen time.
Tonight, I document an exorcism, a form of miracle for the whole world to see.
The more grounded characters, on the other hand, weren't that great. Maxine herself was kind of annoying. She started off with some really great showcases of her being badass as hell and being very driven and easy to follow, but at some point she just becomes a dumb horror movie character cliche. In some scenes she barely even tried to escape the person who was trying to kill her and had to be conveniently saved at the last minute, and it was so against her character. The gay best friend was very underdeveloped and it was so obvious he was going to die. And while his death scene was great, it wasn't as heartbreaking or shocking as the movie seemed to act like it was. And it felt very insulting that they plastered a very in-your-face Coca-Cola ad on the screen right after Maxine broke down crying over his death. In the end, the presentation of this movie was excellent. The acting, directing, and the technical aspects were all really stellar, but I feel they dropped the ball on Maxine's journey slightly. The good definitely outweighed the bad, and I would give this movie a 7 out of 10. All three of these movies have their faults, some more than others. But really what brings them together are the three incredible lead performances, some of the best I've seen this year, and I hope they get the respect they deserve for their acting.
Please, I'm a star!
Anyway, that's all I have for you listeners today. Check out Ronny Reviews on Instagram for more info, and before I let you go, it's time for Ronny's Joke of the Week. What would you call the star of Maxine if she was soup? Mia Broth. Okay, that was pretty bad. Let me try again. What would you call the star of Smile 2 if she was a horse? Naomi Scott. Okay, one more. What would you call the star of Trap if he was a little gassy? Josh Fartnet. Yeah. See you next time on Ronny's Repulsive Reviews.